Toronto, and we developed this thing called MAPS, and the purpose of it basically is for Miller. You're our star today, okay? And her family and her school community, so that at the outcome of this, you know, when we finish this sheet, we'll have something that'll help her family, that'll help her, that'll help Steve and Ivan and the school people, and all of us create a better situation for Miller. Jack and I are going to co-facilitate this. He's going to draw, I'm going to talk, then I'm going to draw, he's going to talk. So that's what we're going to do, and it'll be about 2 hours. The first thing we want to know is we want to just go through this list of who's here, and we'd like to know why you're here. Not just who you are, but like why you're here and what your relationship is to Miller.
I'm Josh, and I've known Miller since 3rd grade, and I've always admired her because she's a real nice person, and that's just about it.
And I'm Amy, and I've known her since 3rd grade, and I'm here because she's going to be a neat person, and I want to know her.
I'm Sherry, and I'm a special ed teacher at Niwot Elementary School, and I'm really interested in being here because I really like Miller, and I'd like to know how to get to know her better.
That's great, because one of the things about this process is that's really the heart of it, is getting to know who Miller is. And then out of that, we believe the program comes, not vice versa. So that's great.
I'm Alex, and I've been in Miller's class 3rd, 5th, and 6th, and I'm here one reason because I was invited, but also to help Miller learn more and get a better education.
I'm Steve, and I'm Miller's teacher this year in 6th grade. I'm excited to be here to learn more about her. It's only been 7 days of school that I really have known Miller, other than one time I came to dinner here in the summer. Although I've seen Miller since 3rd grade and known who she was.
I like that. So you see this process right now for you as a way to get to know Miller.
Yeah. And also 7 kids that are in my room, to listen to them also.
That's right.
And they should feel good that all the kids that are here, that they're special to Miller. That's why they're here. They weren't special, they wouldn't have been.
Okay, I'm Arlene Blewett, and I was Miller's teacher last year in 5th grade, and I've known Miller since 3rd grade. I really consider her like a friend, and I have learned a lot from Miller, and hopefully she is, you know, benefited from being in the class last year, but the class also benefited a great deal from being with her. I think we all learned a lot from having her in the classroom. There was a very cohesive bond having her in the classroom. It was a very close class. We did lots of things together, and there were many, many experiences where I saw everybody grow in the classroom. I think everybody, including the teacher, grew and learned an awful lot just being together.
Well, I'm Bob, and I've really gotten to know Miller since she was in 3rd grade, and I'm here because Miller has touched my life and has touched the lives of a lot of the kids here and a lot of the people here, so I'm excited about being involved and contributing in whatever way I can.
I'm just curious how you, I mean, I can tell how you feel, but like, how do you feel hearing all this?
Oh, it's wonderful. Some of it I didn't know.
What didn't you know?
Some of the feelings of the children that they really feel deeply about Miller. How the effect that she's had. I know how she's affected my life in too many ways to mention. I mean, it goes on for the 12 and a half years, but the way that she's touched other people in a short period of time. And I think it's very exciting because these are people that will hopefully, if they're still involved in Miller's life, will continue to be caring friends.
What were some of the things you heard? What were some of the feelings in terms of the story of Miller when she was born and went through some of the other stuff?
Everything was very limiting. The term developmentally delayed was used. And then when she was a year old, she received the diagnosis or the label of mentally retarded. And I was so afraid to ask to find out more what that meant.
What did they tell you in terms of school?
Never mentioned it, did they?
School wasn't discussed. We were in a what I refer to as a medical phase. We were going through all the labeling and we were going through all the therapy, and there was no one there who had any particular capacity to help us project into the future in terms of what Miller's life might be like. What they were skilled at was telling us what she couldn't do, and where she couldn't be, and that's a perverse kind of skill to bring to bear for parents who are hoping for the future of their kid.
Did you ever think that you'd see this?
It didn't occur to us. Okay, I mean, there were several years. I'm getting ahead of where you may want to be, but there were several years when we literally lived in this neighborhood, and these kids didn't have a chance to know Miller, and Miller didn't have a chance to meet them, because the place where kids meet, if you don't live within bike distance, is you meet going to school, and you make friends going to school, and they didn't have that opportunity. And how exciting it is now.
So when she went to school, where did she go at first?
She went to public school when she was 5, and it was about 20 minutes away from here.
By walking, or?
No, a big bus picked her up, and she was the only student on it. The bus capacity was like 62 or something, I remember
She was
seeing
the
it.
only
Yeah, and she had to have assistance getting on the bus because the steps were so high, and she was quite small.
And how far is this school where Steve is and the gang, Ivan, now?
It's 3 blocks away.
Whoa! Wait, I want to hear a little bit of this. How do you think she felt being alone on a bus?
Feel left out and wanted, but nobody liked her.
Left out, unwanted, and like nobody wants her. That sums up the way I would feel alone on a bus. How did you get from that to this? You know some of this too, like.
I certainly know some of the background, having been involved in it. And I think Tim, you and Melinda can help add to it, but basically I think Tim and Melinda asked a question. And I think the question is why couldn't Miller go to her neighborhood school? And they wanted Miller to be part of her community or her neighborhood. And so they approached, actually I think the conversation started at her other school, Melinda. And from there, it came to our office and over to Niwot, and then several meetings were held and discussions. And I think the discussions went on for about a year almost. And as a result, we developed a system of supports to try to help make that happen. Or not try, but to make that happen. And it's been an ongoing sort of problem-solving activity because there are challenges with it, like anything new, but I think that as we all can see here, I think that it's been very successful. It's really benefited a lot of people.
What did you see, right? Did you see any changes right away when she went from that small stuff to this kind of setting? Like, could you notice?
She spoke more. I couldn't understand her because her articulate, but she had more to say. She had things to tell me. She had a more varied day because there were more individuals involved.
It was kind of a mix. I can remember she came home one day and she had learned how to say "shut up." That's not something that she had learned at home, but she had learned it from some friends. There was another time when I found her trying to, you know how kids, when you're real young and limber, you could sit on your foot?
Right.
Well, that's not something that I've taught, nor Melinda, I believe, but Miller learned how to sit on her foot. That's cool.
And was very proud, as she is now.
We started to realize at that point that there were some things that the kids were teaching that we didn't even think to try to teach. And you can argue about how important it was one way or the other, but the fact was Miller was learning some very difficult kinds of things that we never would have thought to try to provide for her.
Okay, and we've come up, this is a new question that we added. What's a map? Just think a map. When you think of the word map, what words come to mind? Yeah?
Rivers, lakes, mountains.
Oh, yes, rivers, lakes, mountains. That's where when I look out the window in Colorado. Good, yes?
A direction to go.
A direction to go. I did not program this trial. All your answers are good, but that's perfect. Pardon?
Guidelines.
Guidelines.
The map gives you options. The map gives you information and gives you something on which you can base personal decisions or...
Great. That's what a map is. Okay, it's not a fixed formula. It's not a rigid curriculum. In terms of the school, I think it will help you develop a curriculum that's really meaningful. And it really truly is a direction to go in. It's guidelines, it's roads. It will lead us to our destination, which we have to, by the way, decide on. That's the biggest thing. What's the destination? If the destination is limited life, then we should have left her where she was. Obviously, the destination is the community, right? Helps you when you're lost. And by the way, Steve, you will be lost, as well as the family sometimes, and then we come back to the map. Helps you find what you're looking for. Hope we'll get there. And options. I really like that. Anybody have any questions? Al?
A map also shows you the roadblocks.
The roadblocks.
Very good point, Alice.
That's a great point. There will be roadblocks. And what happens when you hit a roadblock?
And then try another option.
Thank you. You just don't stop. You try another option. Great. Now, this is my favorite question. I want to know, not just from Melinda and Tim, but I'm interested in some of you who really know Miller well. Here's Miller. What's your dream for her future?
Well, one of the things I've always wanted to see Miller do is when she plays basketball, she's getting really close to hitting the ball into the hoop, and I've always wanted to see her like a basket.
She wants you to be a basketball star. Is that it? Okay. Josh?
Well, I want Miller to get a good education and to understand life and stuff. And I want her to know what life's about.
Okay, put some more, I want you to be, that's great, a little more specific.
I think Miller will, when she grows up and gets a job, I think she might be a job helping people like her, because she knows the experience, and she'll help them go through school and make it through, and she'll be like Bob kind of, and work a circle of friends and just help the person.
I love it.
We can do a close circle of friends.
Bob's going to be her mentor, and we're going to train Miller for Bob's job and to build circles of friends. I love that, Alex.
I need to just announce that's not a job to do circle of friends. That's actually the highlight of my week, circle of friends.
Is that the highlight
It
of yours?
definitely is the highlight.
Yeah, me too. Miller, do you like what they're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, what job would you like? Did you like the office job, or working with kids, or being Bob Rogo? Miller, I think that's great. I'm curious what your parents think of this, or if they ever thought of it. Melinda, are you in shock again?
This is great. I see Miller as being such a people person. I've always thought she'd make a wonderful hostess in a restaurant. It's just fun to listen to other people think about her future.
Now, the hard question that I want to ask, which really is the hard question, which I think is also the heart of the matter, is the nightmare. And I need to hear it from everybody. And I know it's hard, but I want to spend 5 minutes on it. What's your nightmare as a parent?
That I'm going to die before Miller, and I won't be able to take care of her. So we'll forget her.
I think there's a sense of discovery for us as parents still going through seeing the friendships that Miller has with the kids who are here, some kids who couldn't be here. But it comes back to us having to grow beyond the question of what will happen to Miller when we're gone. And you can imagine a variety of different ugly scenarios that you don't want to happen. And you don't have any control over that, and to some extent life goes on and it isn't always perfect for everybody, and it may not be for Miller, but our nightmare would be that Miller was not seen as a person by the people around her, that she was not given full regard. And in any way that happens, whether it's severe or mild, it means that it compromises her, and that's what would bother us terribly.
Josh?
I think the nightmare would be that Miller was stopped being loved by people that she worked around and lived around. Like when she gets older, I think it'd be a real nightmare. It's a community that would love her or anything. She just feel rejected, like it says.
We're gonna go on that. You're gonna love the next part, but Jack and I are gonna switch.
And what we want to know when I say, who's Miller? What do you think? So what do you think? Who's Miller, Miller?
Miller.
Miller! All right, Miller's Miller, of course, man. Amy, who's Miller?
Miller.
Honey. Music. Friend. Happy. Great smile. Outgoing. And fun. Spontaneous. Imaginative. Caring. Creative. Somewhat stubborn. That's allowed too. Any more? Risk taker. All right. How did that sound? That sounded pretty neat, didn't it? Yeah, that was sort of fun. Now, we want you to do the same thing again, just as fast, same rules, real short, but we want you to say, what are her gifts? And who's got an idea?
Her smile.
Her smile.
Making other people smile.
Making other people smile.
Her friendship.
Her friendship. Emily.
Her sense of humor.
Sense of humor, how are we doing?
The sound of her laugh.
I was just gonna.
We got a round for sound of her laugh. Jennifer.
Herself.
Herself. That's nice. What gifts?
I think she has the gift of creating friendships.
Creating
Among a lot of
friendships. Very special gift. Alex.
Pulling people together.
Pulling people together.
Better said.
Nice wording.
She's
Good.
courageous and persevering.
Courageous. Persevering.
Making you feel special.
Making you feel special. We got other words? This doesn't have to.
She cares.
She cares. Any more?
Jack, I don't think you heard Arlene's.
Warmth. Okay. Any closure there? Hey Miller, what do you think about all those words? That's what everybody thinks you've got. That's sort of neat? Yeah, right, you're the star. All right. High five. All right. Yeah. This is good stuff. Okay. Now we're going to do another switch. This one's going to take maybe a little bit longer, but not very long. And we want you to think about, if Miller's got all those gifts, and she's such a neat lady, what does she need? What does she need?
Needs to be willing to learn.
Needs to be willing to learn. Okay. What else does she need?
Grow.
She needs to grow. All right.
She needs to be inspired.
She needs to be inspired.
She needs friends.
How you doing?
Great.
Okay, be inspired. She needs friends.
She needs some help.
She needs some help.
Reassurance.
Reassurance? Yeah.
Attention.
Attention.
She needs cues.
Cues.
She needs pointed in the right direction.
Need to be pointed in the right direction. Cues. That's, yeah, you got it. Yeah, Josh.
She needs to be loved.
She needs to be loved.
She needs choices.
Choices.
Opportunities.
Opportunities. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now, we're going to switch again. I think one of the things that's really important to think about is 8 years ago, if you'd made a list, there likely would have been this many people in the room because they didn't exist. And if you'd thought out about what all the gifts were, when we do this with most families at the beginning, it's a pretty short list. Sometimes there's hardly anything on it at all. And the needs list ends up being busing in group homes and all the kinds of stuff that we ended up calling a nightmare, which is really pretty fascinating. And so this is a much better dream, isn't it? So I think what we want to do, I'm going to swap pencils. I'm going to go back to the board, and Marsha's going to switch into how do we turn this into a plan of action.
Now I'm going to focus on Steve again for a minute. And I want to ask the same question to you on what do you need to turn all of this into a plan of action for your day with all of these kids. So I want to focus on you. And don't be restrained by reality for a moment. Like what do you need to make this into a plan of action?
I need the help to know what to do to work towards the dreams.
Okay.
What to do with Miller, only these long periods of time. There's work to do. What should Miller be doing? How much can Miller do what we're doing?
Yeah, I think also there's the feeling, I sense there's the feeling of sometimes we don't want to upset Miller. I mean, that's just a gut level feeling that I have. And so that gets into do we have within our repertoire of tricks or strategies ways to motivate her to try at the time. I think because Miller, sometimes when she gets upset, she can be somewhat difficult or disruptive, and I think
Not unlike her parents.
So I think that's one of the challenges for us is to just figure out how do we
And not have
how do we work around
kids
that?
think we're being the meanest people in the world.
Okay, great. Now, what I like to do sometimes is take everybody through the day, a quick travel through the curriculum, the daily curriculum, literally starting from arrival at school. Everybody arrives at 7:40. Now, what is Miller doing at 7:40? Everybody. Yeah.
She's just talking, just hanging around.
Okay. And that's pretty comfortable? She's hanging around, talking to people? Okay, great. Next?
Comes in class, we start, lunch count attendance. This morning we had social studies. That's about 7:50.
Okay. So what does Miller do when everybody else is doing social studies? When you're studying what is it, American history?
American history,
Did you say?
1812.
Okay, American history, 1812. What could Miller be doing at that time that's relevant to that stuff? Good. Jennifer.
Well, if they're reading out of their social studies books, somebody should read to Miller.
Okay, so there could be a buddy that's reading to her. Okay.
She could get a picture of something that had to do with the social studies, and she could color it, and then he could explain what's going on.
Okay, we could get some pictures and she could do picture work. How's that sound so far?
With all of the classes, we could have like a person of the day, and they go off and with her and they teach her. This is when Jackson saved New Orleans. I don't know. And with math, they could work with her. And just like all subjects.
So with all subjects, you could have like a person for the day or the week or something that's like a peer tutor. Now I'm going to do something fun here. Chuck, ordinary parent. We get told parents are going to object to all. How do you feel about that? If Emily was a person of a day or a person for a week to be a helper, what do you think of that?
I don't think that her education is going to be compromised at all. It's going to be enhanced. And I think the more involvement Emily or any of the other kids have one-on-one teaching Miller is going to be great. You have to, that will certainly, I think, enhance their understanding of the subject.
Well, I'll tell you that one of the best kept secrets in education, but we know it from the literature, is that the kid that's the tutor learns as much as the tutee. And there's heavy-duty research to back that one up, right, Bob?
Yes, I would agree.
Right? Okay, so how could we either make it more interesting or think of some creative ways to deal with that? But by the way, the adults are free to join in here.
Well, maybe we could have somebody sit with her, and we are doing this with reading, and we have a card that says something and then has a picture on it, and when that thing gets mentioned or something, she could point to the card or hold it up or something.
Okay, how would this sound? What would you think of getting some volunteers to work with you or to come up on their own to modify the social studies curriculum for Niwot?
Sure.
See, what I'm trying to do, and you seem open to it, is what I've learned as a teacher is to really utilize the kids. Susan?
If she gets just interested in social studies, you could associate the learning with something she likes to do. Like maybe you could get a tape of a song that is telling you about the social studies, and she'll listen to it because I know she can memorize some songs and stuff.
Okay, so what I would do, see Bob, that's what
Studies rap.
that's what I would do, is sit with you, Steve, and the kids, and come up with curriculum modification stuff. But when we do this, boy, do we come up with a curriculum that's fun and exciting. Okay, so that's social studies. Let's move on from social studies. I mean, you're going to do a lot of this after this, but this gets you started. What's next?
After that would be language.
What happens during language? What do you do, Emily?
Well, right now we're doing, well, I guess that's language
Interviews.
interviews.
Tell me a little more about this interview stuff.
They're picking a partner, interviewing each other, and writing a short profile of the other person.
Okay. So what would you do with Miller?
At the time she was with two other kids, in a group, hoping that they'd be able to interview with her and work with her.
Great.
But the hard part is that she may stay with them for a minute, or she may not go to them for 10 minutes.
It's an observation that I've made over the course of a couple of years of watching Miller and listening to her, is that when Miller does wander off, in some ways I'm not sure that's totally boredom.
Okay.
Because I've seen Miller wander off and we'll be discussing something with the kids, and then at the end of our circle of friends, when she's back in her seat, she will bring up the exact thing that we were talking about 15 minutes earlier. So I think we need to keep in mind that may be one of Miller's learning styles in terms of how she processes information and gathers information, is that she needs to remove herself from that situation. Because I honestly believe that she's doing an awful lot of listening when she's doing this thing.
Well, that's great. You know, Eileen, what did you find last year on this front?
Well, first of all, that when she does do the stuff, stimulation, it's because it's embarrassed or focused on her, and it isn't mean she's bored necessarily at all. And also, she does learn so many different ways. I think we have to be careful that we think she's bored again, so she is picking up the things.
Could
I always try to have her do pretty much the same thing we are doing, and maybe somebody might think she's not getting it, but then she'll come back and bring it up. And she does learn in many different ways.
Would it help for you to sit with Eileen and Bob, for example, and just to them, short, like 20-minute meeting, list her learning styles? I'm really hearing that would be interesting, good information for the teacher.
For me, if I were sitting in, basically, if I were in Steve's shoes as a teacher, I think it's the challenge of trying to figure out, I think we want Miller to increase her time on tasks.
Right.
I think that's important for her. We want her to, within the group structure, to be somewhat compliant with the teacher-directed activity and things like that. And I think what Steve is wrestling with, and I know what Eileen wrestled with over and over last year, is trying to find that balance. We want her to be herself and learn when she's ready to learn, but we also know that there are certain group norms, I guess, that a certain parameter of structure that we want her to fit into, and we're trying to move her more and more towards that. And the question is, how fast do we move her, when to push her, I mean, that would be real, that's a judgment call at the time, and I think that's what Steve, do I push her now, do I wait, do I let her come back? And, so.
I think this is really the heart of the problem.
Yeah.
Because last year, I would have all kinds of help from the students that they would want to meet with her and sit with a group and read to her or have help her through the project that we are doing.
Right.
And then she wouldn't want to do this, and then she would get up and leave, whoever she was working with. And what do you do about this, and how do you bring her back and keep her on task? That is the biggest challenge.
But I think your bigger questions, and some of this you can take and start asking, is if reading, I heard reading come up as a priority during this whole thing. If reading's a priority, and we know one-to-one individual tutoring for kids, any kid does wonders for reading, then maybe while you're doing math, if math isn't the key issue right now, she should have more reading. Either an older kid should come in, do cross-age tutoring. Maybe some of you could teach her to read enough stuff that she can go to the kindergarten kids and I'm trying to break you out of she has to do exactly what everybody's doing. That's not the aim here.
We have a structure for doing some problem solving. The problem is it's somewhat time limited, and I think we just need to, arrange some times with Steve and some of the other people, adults that have contact with her, and facilitate a little more time for planning. And I think we can do that.
But all the planning should be kept in the larger context of that's why we do this. So that the planning doesn't come from us, but comes from a context. Now, you keep talking about Circle of Friends, and do 5 minutes of how you built that, how it's kept going.
We offered the kids the opportunity to get together in Miller's class, but we also gave them the option if they didn't want to be there to participate. They had that option to leave, and all the kids stayed. And we spent, I can't remember exactly when we started with last year's class, but I think it was fairly early in the fall. And we spent a year of getting to know each other and getting to know Miller better. But I think it's already been brought up before. The importance of that is that it enables us to really get to know each other as people, and that to me is a real powerful, just a powerful situation. What we did is we would often ask, what can we celebrate about Miller's Week? And then what are some needs? And then we would do some brainstorming just like we're doing today around how we can address those needs. And then what was interesting is that I found that was interesting is that the kids starting to talk about some of their needs, the other kids. And we got into issues about older siblings and younger siblings. And the exciting part for me was that I even got to talk about some of my needs around one of my teenage sons. And I think it's real valuable to have each other offer ideas about how to address your needs. So I think Circle of Friends or support groups or friendship groups or whatever you want to call them just has is just, to me, that's the tool, or that's the strategy, that's the key for making inclusion be a everyday word for kids. Let me sort of bring this to some closure. I think I have in my mind what we need to do, and that is to continue allowing opportunities to get together and brainstorming and using the kids.
Our time's going to be a factor of that.
Well, I think that's part of our obligation, in terms of a system. I mean, it's not special ed and regular ed, but we're one and the same. And from an administrative point of view, I think it's our obligation to figure out how to support creating that time in a way that doesn't distract from the education of everyone. In fact, enhances it, as Chuck had referred to earlier. And I think there are ways of doing that, even in times of tough budgets and limited resources. I would like to, and I'm going to include even some of the observers on this because you've all been listening very patiently. But what I'd like to do is just go around the room and have you select one word or phrase that best describes what happened here today. Okay, Elizabeth. Pardon? Caring? Okay, Jennifer.
Helping Miller.
Helping Miller. Amy.
I was going to say more helpful.
Helpful. Josh.
Is interesting.
Interesting. Okay, let's see. We'll go through them. Alex.
It was fun and it enhanced my learning.
Fun and enhanced your learning. All right, Alex. Emily.
It was sharing
Sharing and helpful. Okay, share.
Insightful.
Insightful. Arlene.
Hopeful.
Hopeful. Ellen.
Teaming, togetherness.
Good. Chuck.
Well, I think we've been stretched a little bit. And I don't think it is much fun to be alone on the bus. And I think there's a lot of other kids that are alone on the bus right now. And I've been thinking about those kids, what to do about them. That's another gift that Miller's given us. She's stretched us.
It's going to make us more aware that there are those other kids. Marsha.
I'm very touched by how much you all care about each other, not just about Miller.
Margaret.
Excited.
What I saw happen was sharing as the big word, and under sharing came the caring, the love. What everybody said, it was really amazing what everybody shared, and it wasn't just on the surface. Well, I think you could do this in history, or I think you could do this in math. It was a real caring that made all the ideas blossom.
This reminds me of what I think education is all about, and that's developing bonding and connectedness. And so this was, once again, very powerful. Tim?
I'm going to give Melinda the last word.
I have several things to share. I'm excited is not quite the right word, but it's close. I guess I'm pleased and appreciative of the friendships that Miller has with the kids who are here and the kids that couldn't be here because of size, but the size of the room.
The size of the kids.
Not the size of the kids. I just think it's exciting, you guys, and I want you to know that. You all have your own relationship with Miller, and I'm really happy about that and appreciate that a lot. I had a sense this morning when we were particularly emotional as we were getting started, of one of kind of discovery, of not realizing how much the other people in the room were relating to some of the concerns that Melinda and I share. And we kind of take that for granted because we have, that's our responsibility, that's our thing to do. It's nice to know that there are other people around in various ages who are interested in the same things that we think are so important, and in particular in caring about Miller. And I guess that kind of leads then to the final part in terms of being a little bit less isolated. And I didn't even know that I felt isolated. But as I sit here in this group, I'm clearly not. And that feeling of being included responds to a need that I didn't know I had.
Oh, well, it's overwhelming. There's so many layers. There's so much going on. And to have it be, for today, pointed or directed towards Miller is really exciting. And the benefit that everybody gets from a morning like this is wonderful too. I think Miller is most fortunate to have all these caring people in her life. I think it's terribly exciting. And like Tim was saying, feeling isolated. I always thought I was the only one with Tim, that's not the case. And I thank all of you for your caring and for your thoughtfulness, for involvement.